Hi, my name is Mike. Welcome to my speedrun of The Girl and the Robot. This is the current world record for the any percent category. There's two main categories, any percent and any percent current patch. Basically in the current patch, they completely revamped the game. Patched a lot of the stuff that we use in this run. So that's why we've split up the two categories. I'm currently running 1.002. There's no difference really between 002, 003, 004, it's just mainly stability fixes, but 005 is where everything gets patched. So this category is basically any run before that patch. Here you'll notice the main movement tech. It's just jumping, nothing too tricky, really. Basically you get a bit of a boost forward when you jump, so we just abuse that, so get used to hearing that little yipping that she does. Here, it's actually a little precise to get in the right position for that lever. If you're a bit off, the game will correct itself, put you in the right position, which can cost a couple of seconds. Here again, a bit precise movement. There's some invisible checkpoints on the floor that you need to hit, otherwise you'll crash the game, as I'll state now. Basically, this whole game runs off a checkpoint system. Whereas like most games, if you skipped a checkpoint but got the next one, it would just activate the next one. In this game, if you skip a checkpoint, it will break the entire game. Nothing will spawn, no cutscenes will trigger, no enemies will trigger. You can go from level to level, but no story will progress. And what that ends up happening is when you get to you can get to the last part of the game, but you won't be able to enter the final boss room. So you can't beat the game, unfortunately. If that was the case, I think there's a glitch percent runs in this category. That's about 8 minutes, as opposed to this one. So it'd save a lot of time if the cutscenes, if the checkpoints weren't the way they were. But they are, so we work around it. And I think it makes the run a little bit more fun. You'll notice then, I was carrying the girl as the robot. That is pretty much the quickest way to get from A to B with both characters. The other way of doing it is, as you'll see here, we use death warps. News is, if you get to a checkpoint as a character, kill yourself, both characters will reappear at the checkpoint. Pretty handy, we use it quite a bit. So again, here, even though it's not the quickest way of moving, it is the quickest way of moving with both characters. So we're coming up to the first real skip of the run. Basically, you're meant to enter that room as the girl and go through here as the robot. But fortunately, we can freeze the AI, so they won't affect us. So we can't get captured. It's no one-hit KOs or anything. The way we do this is, if you hit the change character button, just as you're regaining control, it'll put it in this weird state, and the enemies won't move. So here we jump around this corner and activate the next checkpoint. That corner is a little bit finicky. There's an invisible wall that comes just a little bit out, maybe a few pixels, but you do have to make sure to jump around it. Can be a bit tricky, but it's not too bad. It's not a bad reset point. It's only 3 minutes in. You'll notice there's no enemies here. That's because I hit the checkpoint trigger just at the very edge. Basically, I think the enemy trigger is just inside the checkpoint trigger, but it's a bit smaller. It doesn't save any time because we can freeze them pretty easily, but it's, you know, it's nice not to have to jump around them. Saves a tiny bit of time. With the AI freezing, as the girl, you can activate the AI freezing anytime you're not on the ground. So if you're jumping in the air and hit switch, it'll freeze the enemies. Not too sure why it works. I think the game just gets confused. Something to do with game states or something. I don't really know. I've not really looked into the code. Here's another skip, second skip. Basically, what we do here is we kind of get the gate to shut, but keep the robot on the other side. And what that does is, you'll see here, because I get a weird kind of cutscene bug. But for some reason the game, it won't shut that gate if the robot is in the way. And normally the collision will try and push the robot out of the way, because there's a gate there. It won't push them out of the way, so it just won't shut the gate. So that lets us jump through. You'll notice there again, at the end, those two buttons on the floor, meant to have a character on each. But if you walk across them quickly enough, it's fine, it still works. You can do that as a girl or the robot. I don't think they really tested that. But, you know, it works fine. Still works in current patch as well, which is nice. Here we have to go a little bit intended route. There's no way to skip it. Basically, it's a checkpoint on the other side of the second gate that only the robot can activate. Not all the checkpoints in this game are position-based. Some are character-based. And some are condition-based. We'll come to a condition-based one just in a little bit. But this one here is character-based. If it wasn't, we'd just jump all the way over. There's ways of doing it. But because you have to have the robot there, we've got to do this as intended. You notice there the enemy flickering a little bit. Basically, as the robot, we can't freeze the AI as we wish. But we can reset the AI. So, if you just mash the switch key, the enemies will just kind of flicker in place. It's pretty handy. We don't use it too often. Here's another skip coming up. Skip a little fight in those two rooms. Because the girl's pretty mobile, especially with a mouse and keyboard. Sorry, another thing to note. This route's only possible with mouse and keyboard. I know the mouse and keyboard controls aren't the best, but if you're looking to run this category, it's something you're going to have to learn. Because the girl will move one-to-one with the mouse movement. She will turn as quick as you can turn the mouse. Whereas the controller, it's on a set rotation speed. It's not too bad, you get used to it. This is coming to the end of the town. This part here, we can't go into the basement until we kill this enemy. No way of skipping that. There's no way of jumping into the basement, unfortunately. There's a huge invisible wall around that, so you can't even jump over it. But again, we get the girl here just because it's quicker just to walk with both of them down as opposed to running with the girl, and then we'd have to do a save and reset. That would take up a lot of time. Excuse me. So this first part of the basement, we have to do as intended, pretty much. No way to skip it. It's basically a kind of daisy chaining exercise. It's really trying to hammer in the character swapping mechanics, because before this you wouldn't really have had to use it that much. So this part is really just all about optimizing the movement. You'll notice here, as I activate this button, instead of just running straight through as the girl, I swap back, get the robot, because otherwise we have to do a death warp. Takes a bit of time. And here I also check where the enemy is, because the enemy spawn isn't always fixed. It can sometimes spawn on the other side of that gate in the room with the girl. If that happens, even with the freezing, the robot will still capture the girl. So it's just nice to check. If you get it in there, it only takes 5 seconds, but it's nicer to not get that. So it's always best to check first. But again, thanks to the freezing, we're able to leave the girl there and have her not be captured while we do the rest of the button activations. Coming towards the end of the first half now. I think it's one button, then a robot goes to another button, and then there's a nice little skip. But the main reason we have to do this as intended is because this checkpoint here is condition based. This checkpoint won't activate until that door is open. But now that checkpoint's activated, what we can do is, instead of having to go through all again as the robot so we can push a block for the girl and get another door open, what we can do is, thanks to the well-placed geometry, we can just jump around the level, jump over here to the end of the basement. This is like where the basement takes you to once you get up the stairs. Fortunately, you can jump through the floor, activate that trigger, and that's the rest of the basement skip. That saves about 40 seconds. It's probably one of the bigger skips. Here again, I say you meant to go through here as the robot. Again, because with the girl, we can just freeze the AI just by hitting switch in the air. And then we'll use that same point to launch off here and skip. I think it's the quickest route to get through. Basically, you just want to get to this bell here as quick as possible. We don't actually need to activate the bell, fortunately, which saves a nice cutscene. But the checkpoint is like right in that little alcove there, so we do have to come here. Now we're going to skip quite another decent chunk of the game. You meant to have the robot here to activate some doors, use an arrow, hit 2 buttons on the floor, but we can just jump all over it, do a death warp, which fortunately activates the cutscene at the same time, gets both the guys here. So that saves a nice bit. I think the cutscene itself was about 10 seconds, so you know, ignoring all the other stuff, it saves quite a bit of time, and it's relatively easy to do. Like you'll notice there, I kind of fudged the position a little bit. That's why it's really important to get yourself in line. It only saves a few seconds, but you know, seconds that you'd like to gain overall. This part's pretty rubbish. We have to do this as intended, no way to skip it. Basically, the reason we're doing this is to lower a kind of drawbridge on the other side, which we need to get across to, oddly enough, activate another cutscene. A cutscene checkpoint, getting those words mixed up. So yeah, we have to do this long, boring section. Also, if you die afterwards, you have to do this whole bit again. So this is a pretty bad point to die on, really. But now that we've hit that, there's a small cutscene skip here. Basically, if you're in the middle of switching characters, a cutscene won't play. It's only really useful a couple of times, because most of the cutscenes are position-based, so they'll activate as soon as you hit a position. So we can't skip those, but any that are time-based, we can skip, which is nice. Again here, you're supposed to use both the characters, stand on each of those buttons, wait for the door to open, but we can just jump around. Here is another skip that kind of come thick and fast in this game. There's a boss fight in there. Anyone who plays casually will know that that boss fight is not a lot of fun. Really boring, really tedious. But fortunately, because this rock is at a slight angle, and the game doesn't check if you've beaten the boss, this checkpoint is position based. So we just hit the trigger for the next level, and it'll activate round about now. So completely skipping that fight. It's really boring, tedious fight. No one likes doing it, as far as I know. I didn't like doing it. So yeah, generally, this really showcases what the run's about. Generally, we're just trying to avoid using the robot as much as possible. It's because the robot's really limited in his movement options. He's not very fast. He can't jump or anything. He can't really freeze AI. So we try and use the girl as much as possible. I'm going to turn down your volume just there. There's a few moments like that. I think it happens 6 or 7 times. That happens because when you hit that trigger, it kills every enemy beforehand. There's quite a few enemies, so that's why that's so loud. Again, you're meant to be here as the robot, but because the girl's so maneuverable, we just kind of jump off the geometry and skip everything. It's just hitting triggers. We're going down here again just to hit triggers, because you have to have all the checkpoints. Can't skip them. But fortunately here we can freeze the AI. It saves having to do a finicky jump over the wall. There was no reason for me to jump on that cannon. Yeah, again, a loud noise again because it's killing all the enemies. This little trick we're doing here. This skips a cutscene. Because this cutscene's position based, and it takes about 5 seconds. And then we death up there to skip the elevator. Yeah, basically it just saves a nice bit of time overall. Some of the positions that the checkpoints put you at aren't where you trigger the checkpoint as such. Here's a really good example of that. So I'm going to jump off here after I activate the checkpoint, and that's going to send me right to the top of here. No idea why they programmed it like that, but they did, and it's helpful. Again, you'll see here, these jumps I'm doing, not possible with the controller. It has to be mouse and keyboard. You can't turn that quickly with the controller, and you'll see there again, froze the AI, lets us run through as the girl, otherwise we'd have needed the robot to not be taken by those guys. This part, I think there's one more loud noise just about here. That's it, no more loud noises. This part we have to do as intended. It's a little it's an easy enough puzzle. But you need to have the robot on the other side. You can't just go through as the girl. You can get there as the girl without doing this puzzle, but you can't. There's like a talisman you have to hit with an arrow, and the girl can't do that. That's really the only reason we need the robot in the run, is to do things like that. As you'll see just in here, even if we got through as the girl, we need to hit this. We're coming to the last parts of the game now. One more, it's not really a skip as such, it's just abusing the AI, really. So normally you'd have to run through, you'd hit this bell. We can skip this, but it's longer, because we need this bell to open up the door that you'll see in a second. You can get in without opening the door, but you have to go all the way around, and I think it's, maybe saves a second if you're really good, but it's super finicky. So it's just easier to do this way, just freeze the AI and just run through. Because otherwise you'd have to go kind of all the way around these walls right here, and then kind of clip your way in, but we can walk through. So now we're at the last level. Another couple of skips. Right here, fortunately they put these nice statues just at the edge, so we can skip opening that gate. You notice this jump I do, this little kind of ridge on the floor, that's very important. You need to be stood on that ridge to make this jump, otherwise you won't quite reach that little lip on the edge. Last death warp, there we go. It doesn't look like we did much, but now you notice the robot's over here. Here's the second cutscene skip. But you'll see the second half of the cutscene in a second, but we can skip the first one with a nice bit of timing there. But again, like here, so this cutscene, can't skip it, you can't switch fast enough. Coming up is like the worst part of the run. Basically it's kind of like an enemy rush. You notice we've not really fought too many enemies in this run, but here it forces you to, because you have to, there's two buttons on the other side, one on, like, each behind a wall, so you have to get the girl and the robot on each side. Which is why we have to do this, unfortunately. The main thing I tend to do here is I try and kill the purple guys as quickly as possible. Just to get them out of the way. And you'll notice here, see the enemies jittering about. I'm using the enemy reset glitch to get more hits in, otherwise they keep trying to attack you. This can be a bit tricky, really. You kind of want to take some hits here, because as I mentioned before, the quickest way of movement is actually I might not have mentioned it before, I might have done that. Quickest way of movement is a fully damaged robot. But you can only get to be a fully damaged robot by taking a lot of hits, and that can take quite a bit, so generally I try and take a few hits in this little enemy fight here. Doesn't always happen though. If you lose at least one or two like layers, you're going to be saving seconds. But that's it, that's all the tricky parts of the run done. You know, say I do enemy reset again just to make sure it doesn't hit me. It doesn't generally hit you. But it's nice just to make sure that he doesn't. And here's why we have to go through that whole thing. So there's a button on this side. And with the girl, there'll be a button on the other side. And then we'll come to the final boss. Final boss, I don't know if anyone's played it casually, they'll know it's not too fun. Lots of invincible exploding enemies who repeatedly explode. But there is a way to freeze AI as the robot. Unfortunately, it involves coming from a transition from the girl. So you notice there, no problems, just run straight to the witch and, you know, attack her. But again, we have to swap to the girl and back to freeze the AI. It's the quickest way of doing it. You can't freeze them, unfortunately. There's no way of doing it. I've tried several ways of doing it. It's just not possible. But time will be on the third hit right now. Right. I guess that's everything. If anyone's got any more questions, put them in the comments. Subscriptions are nice, I guess. Like the video. Thanks for watching.